Guess who back in the house? Here's Click Clack in the bow. I hope that you guys are having a lovely day. I have been super busy. I was flued out, as they say on the gram, to Miami, so I couldn't do a review last week. So I wanted to actually do the review today for you guys. And I am super excited about this episode of Drag Race. It is titled World's Worst, episode 3. And previously, we had 2 separate premieres. So this episode is the first time that the different groups of queens are coming together and meeting for the first time. And it was a great moment. We learned quickly that New York dominates the cast. There are 5 queens from New York, and Jan and Britta are in the same drag family. So I know that Alexis Michelle is Jan's mom. So I'm curious the roles in the family. Like, are they sisters, cousins? How exactly does that work? So I hope we get to know more about their drag family as the season progresses. And between group 1 and group 2, there's also tension with the groups thinking that they're the better group and they have the most talent. And so I liked that tension building up between the 2 groups. We see a moment where Jackie Cox asks the other group, was there a fight? And if so, who was the fight between? And group 2 reveals information that they probably should not reveal so that they can learn, or group 1 will learn their weaknesses. And so that was a cute moment as well. So I really appreciated that. So Ru enters the workroom and we learn what the mini challenge is. And so the winners of episodes 1 and 2, Widow Von Du, as well as Jada Essence Hall, they have to pick who's the top to the bottom in terms of competition. And they have to rank like who's their best competition, who's their worst competition in the groups that they were a part of. And so this was shady, but I actually loved it. And so the interesting thing is that I believe who it's Sherry who Sherry Pie, who Nicky Doll calls her Allison, which is so shady. Sherry Pie and Gigi were voted as the most competitive or strongest individuals in groups 1 and 2. And so it's really just awkward knowing that Sherry does so well in the competition, and also knowing the drama that has happened, and she has been disqualified from the competition. So that is just so awkward. Season 12 queens really have it rough. 1 with Sherry Pie, 2 with DragCon LA being canceled, as well as DragCon New York, most likely, and with nightclubs across the country just shutting down completely. I was actually really excited that I was going to see Jada Essence Hall perform yesterday, Monday night, at Mickey's Showgirls. I know that she was going to be incredible once the second that she hit the stage, but all nightclubs in California are closed. So season 12 queens have it really rough. If you can support them in any way, please do so. You can buy their merch. You can, I don't know if any of them have music out or not. If they do, support. But they have it rough. And some of the queens hate having to compete with the queens from the sisterhood. And so I feel like some of the even some of the 11 queens, they can fall back on merch, music. I don't know if Vegas is completely shut down. I know some casinos have closed. I don't know if the shows are shut down. But I know the girls in Vegas are happy that they at least have something to rely on, even if they, even if the casinos are shut down, they're guaranteed to get paid. So they really win. And there was a lot of like controversy because some queens were saying that they weren't paying enough money and they didn't like the idea of being tied to this show for 3 months. All of the queens who are in it, they have to do it for at least 3 months. So back to the, so Sherry, Gigi are seen as the strongest competitors, where Aiden and Heidi are seen as the weakest. And so Sherry and Gigi are New York, LA, big city queens. Aiden and Heidi are from small cities in the South. And I really believe that the West Coast, East Coast queens and the beauty pageant queens really look down on queens from smaller cities who aren't in the pageant scene. And so that is really unfortunate because all drag is valid, and oftentimes it is the small city queens who can really shock and wow audiences across the world with their talent. It is often the queens from down south in small cities who can really turn it and put on a good show. So I really, that aspect I didn't like. A lot of people have really come for Aiden and how green Aiden is. So from my understanding from Aiden's first episode, Aiden stated that she has never performed anywhere else. And so I actually saw Aiden perform at Mickey's, and I actually posted that video to my channel. And so someone commented that it's not her first performance, but I think it is. Like, I think like outside of the show, I don't know how many times she performs, but outside of that, her first time performing in front of a live audience in a nightclub was at Mickey's. And Heidi is actually part of the pageant scene, and I know she can put on a performance because I also saw her at Mickey's and she wowed the audience. She performed, one of the songs she performed was I'm That Itch, I'm That Itch. She was incredible. Everyone was up out of their seats, clapping, throwing money on the stage. And so don't underestimate the down south queens. So in a complete twist, Ru stated that Widow, Jada, Aiden, and Heidi would be team captains for a challenge, the Maxi Challenge, where it's called World's Worst, where it's a reality competition where individuals don't have any talent. And so it's an acting / improv challenge, which can be really good or really bad for some queens. We've seen some acting challenges throughout the seasons where they have been completely awful. And we've really seen some people kind of like come into their own on the show. And so I was excited to see how all of these particular queens would rise to the challenge. And so they have to individually pick their team members. And the hilarious thing is that all of the New York queens are picked first. Again, New York is dominating with Gigi from LA. And so I don't know if I like this trend where the New York queens are seen as the most talented. Um, and so hopefully this doesn't play out because I think all of these queens from this particular season are extremely talented in their own ways and that they're able to really highlight their uniqueness. And so we get into the rehearsals, and Ru comes into the workroom and gives the teams advice. But one of the things that really stood out during this kind of like walkthrough of the workroom is that Ru says that she hates Heidi's name. And she says something to the effect of that closet just doesn't give the audience enough, I guess, wittiness or humor to satisfy them. And a lot of people have stated that they hate her name. I actually love it. And so it is her full name is Heidi Nina Closet, so hiding in closet. But Nikki Doll was at Roscoe's in Chicago, and she said that Heidi was always changing her name. So whatever she felt that day, that was her name. So some days it was hiding in closet. Some days it was hiding Nina Closet. And then other days it was Heidi Ing Closet. And so Nikki said that I don't think she knows, which was so shady. And do you guys hate her name or do you enjoy her name? I enjoy it. But Heidi stated that she would change it if that means that she gets to top 4. But I love it. And so we have in the 4 groups, we have the Del Rio sisters, which is Gigi, Heidi, and Jackie. And we have the Squirrel, the Squirrel Squatters, which is Nikki, Widow, and Crystal. The Fruity Patooties, which is Dahlia, Rock, and Jada, and Rock. And then 3 Girls, 1 Brain, which is Britta, Sherry, and Aiden. And so my favorite group of them all were the Del Rio sisters. And this is kind of like a spinoff of American Idol. That's what I was getting from the look of the show and the role that Carson played. He's kind of like the Ryan Seacrest character. And then Ross and what's her name? Oh my gosh, Charo were kind of like the Simon and Paula Abdul characters. And so they're these older women. They're identical twins or triplets, and it's their big break. And Gigi is playing dead because she's so excited she has a heart attack. And Jackie is kind of like moving her lips and voicing her thoughts, which was hilarious. Weekend at Bernie's meets Golden Girls. And so I loved it. I was laughing with them the entire time, and I was slightly nervous because of Heidi and Jackie's interactions in the workroom. Like it seemed as if they were on two different pages. That Jackie felt that because of her background in New York theater, um, she almost came off as superior to Heidi, which I didn't like that. I feel as if you are someone who's trained in theater and improv, that you should just readily give advice to someone without appearing as if you are annoyed by the way that they're reacting. And so I guess it really stood out because I feel as if with some of my friends, I might have that same reaction that Jackie has, and kind of like given distance, seeing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that how I come off? Um, and so it was so abrasive. It gave me pause, and I didn't enjoy it. But it's a reality show. There has to be tension. And so it had to play out. But it was worth it because they were incredible. Everything that Ross was giving, they were returning it. And it was so beautiful. It was so good. And they were the first group that came out. And so I thought kind of like, oh, because they're good, everyone else is going to be good. And so the Squirrel Scouts, that's what they're called, Squirrel Scouts with Nicky, Widow, and Crystal. This seemed like it was a Roxy Andrews script because they were left at the bus stop by their moms, and they had somehow, I don't know if this was part of the script because part of it was scripted. And part of it, Ross was just throwing out things at them to see how they would react, a la whose line is it anyway? And they said they said they had to use sticks as tampons. I lost it. That was hilarious. The one thing, kind of like fast forwarding into the episode, is that Michelle was really upset that Crystal did her same face, her same paint in the Squirrel Scouts. And I really didn't understand this critique because it's Crystal's face, it's her character, and it distinguishes her from every other girl on the show. There's some drag queens who I see them on Instagram and every single photo of them looks like a completely different person. And you're like, who is this? Like I can't keep up. And there's some drag queens that they're almost like cookie cutters of girls from Drag Race. If you go on Instagram now, you'll see 1,000 queens that just look just like Courtney Act, look just like Alaska, look just like Trixie, look just like Raven. I can't tell them apart. And so I love that she has a unique look that is hers. If you were to show me 20 different queens on Instagram, I could pick out Crystal because of the way that she paints. And how do you guys feel about the way that she paints? Like, is it a distraction? Is it too much? But I really appreciate it because especially early in the seasons of Drag Race, it's very difficult to tell all of these new queens apart. So she definitely stands out. And Nikki Doll had a great point from the first episode that Crystal did. They had to have 5 different episodes, and from the spring fall look into the main runway look, she painted her entire body red. in 30 minutes time. That is a skill set that very few people have. And so I applaud that. And so there are a lot of queens that can't even do that, paint their entire body in 2 hours. And so I applaud Crystal for that. And I'm actually excited to see Crystal's growth on the show because I feel as if she will only continue to grow and develop the skill of makeup. So I'm really excited for her. And so the Squirrel Scouts, Widow stood out to me the most. She was effortless. I knew who her character was, and she was the drunk squirrel or the drunk scout. And I don't know if this was intentional, but she was like perspiring. She was just like sweating profusely. She kept drinking from a flask, and she had her skirt was accidentally tucked into her underwear. And so she was completely committed to her character. Everyone else she made them invisible. I wasn't even interested in them anymore just because how committed Widow was. And Gigi really faded into the background. Crystal stood out because of her makeup. But Widow killed it. The Fruity Patooties. Now, there was a fight between Rock and Jada about who would be the bad apple in the group because the bad apple is, well, they billed it as the star of the group, and the star was just going to completely kill it because of the lines that they had. I was not impressed with Jada as the big apple. Jada kept her face away from the camera, and so we really couldn't see her emoting to the group. She was just facing the group. Rock stood out to me as the orange of the group. Rock had the best lines, and it seemed as if Rock had the best kind of like interactions with Ross. Rock killed it as the orange. Dahlia, horrible. Really, Michelle was able to, I guess, clock Dahlia early on, which Michelle is such a good judge because she can really read people in a way that is authentic and so close to the head. And so she said that she felt as if Dahlia would basically try to create this sexy character, and outside of that, we really didn't know her personality. And we could really see that with her playing a broccoli. Like, her broccoli characterization was the equivalent of every girl on Halloween who wants to be a sexy character. She was a sexy broccoli character. Like, doesn't even make sense. And so she was trying to give like Marilyn Monroe in a broccoli costume, which doesn't make sense. And so she needed more depth to come across as a realistic character. She didn't have a beating heart. Ross threw out a question to her. Like, this group is called the Fruity Patooties, yet you're broccoli. Why are you here? And I think it was Rock that had to answer. And Dahlia just looked dumbstruck. I don't know if that was editing, because she might have said something, but it didn't. The Fruity Patooties were awful. Completely. Rock kind of like was the best one in the group. They were awful. So 3 girls, 1 brain, Britta, Sherry, Aiden. Fast forward, the judges love them. I hated them. They just seemed so awkward. The timing was off. I don't know. I think part of their story was that they were somewhere in a group together and they were struck by lightning. And ever since then, they haven't showered because they were singed. Um, it didn't make any sense to me at all. Um, it was tragic. And later on in the workroom, Sherry and Britta stated that they were carrying Aiden. And I was really confused by this because they stated that they are professional actors. And so I don't understand why they weren't professional and gave Aiden tips to help them as a group, because it was a group challenge. And you never know how group challenges will be judged, if people will be judged individually or if they will be judged as a group. And so, because of that fear of the unknown, I would try to do my best to help my group succeed and try to win the challenge. And so when they ganged up on Aiden, it just didn't make sense to me. Especially because Britta and Sherry are friends in real life. That they would kind of like see themselves in Aiden and try to really push her along. Even, I guess Aiden was the leader, so they were relying on her leadership. But none of that made sense to me at all. I think like a producer got into like their ear and said like, attack this situation now. So can we have a moment of silence of how incredible Ru looked on the runway? Ru has been really showing off her body, especially in Drag Race UK. Like the skirts got shorter, the legs got longer. So she's wearing these thigh-high, like snakeskin boots with almost like a bodysuit, almost like a bodysuit with like the middle cut out with this like long drapey ribbon material at the waist, and 80s style rocker hair, which is a really beautiful shade of brown too. So I loved Ru's look. Incredible. And so the main challenge is bows and buttons. And so I loved everyone's interpretation of bows and buttons. But the interesting thing is that a lot of the queens took inspiration from like fairy tales. So I didn't get the connection between fairy tales and bows and buttons. And so I was actually trying to like Google bows and buttons, and I just found a song from I think it was Dusty Springfield. But do any of you guys get the reference between bows and buttons and fairy tales? I don't know. But one of my favorite looks is Jada. She had this very monochromatic, classic silhouette skirt that was different shades of pink, like a light pink, a medium pink, and a hot pink. And it was really beautiful. It was almost like this really beautiful skirt that flared out at the bottom, with this really cool minimalist coat that had these incredible bows on the sleeves with buttons in the middle, and incredible bows in her hair. She almost looked like a holiday black Barbie, almost like an ornament, like a Barbie ornament as well. The hair was coiffed beautifully in this very retro style, with kind of like a bow over her bang. She just polished pageant perfection. And so she gets tens across the board and the top toot of the week. I loved her. Um, Dahlia um, looked like an exquisite Fabergé egg. The colors were almost antiqued and very regal. She had these beautiful floppy bunny ears with these very beautiful, um, I don't know, like this like 19th century palette of colors that were just very beautiful, very lush. The material was like this beautiful sheen, this kind of like shiny material that was almost purposely dulled a little bit. And so I really was impressed with her look. Um, Rock gave this interpretation of Alice in Wonderland. And she stated that it was Alice in Wonderland who has taken a lot of prenatal pills, and so her hair is really long. So it was really kind of like Rapunzel in Wonderland. So I really enjoyed the look. Rock, of course, gave classic rock eye makeup with the heavy white underneath the eye. And so I loved it. Rapunzel meets Planned Parenthood. So Jan turned herself into a voodoo doll. And so her first look was very, it's like the potato sack material. So it was very El Orphantine, the project that was backed by Guillermo del Toro. And I I enjoyed it because like I like the interpretation. It's like it's something that most queens wouldn't think of, and she had this kind of like really cool bow and buttons on the voodoo doll, and she kind of like had this mask. She took it off, that was reveal, and then she had like this potato sack skirt. She took that off to reveal that she was wearing these pants that was very kind of like patchwork. And so I applaud her for her interpretation. Like she saw um, what the challenge was and went in a completely different direction. And so she gets top toots for that look. I really appreciated that. So Heidi, she decided to do a play off of Pinocchio. And so she had this huge nose, but the outfit was very simple. It was like a simple red sequined skirt with like this like blue sequined bolero jacket situation, like a yellow top, and I think she had like a blue scarf that was tied around her neckline. But then she had like a peekaboo moment where her cheeks were cut out in the back to show off her cheeks. And so it felt like there was something that was missing from the look. And so I didn't love it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So it's somewhere in the middle. But it needed something. Like it needed like an over the top thigh high boot or a cape. Maybe like a long red cape would have like really set it off, like something that was very flowy, or maybe like an oversized hat, but she needed something dramatic to take away from the simplicity of the outfit. Gigi Good was wearing, I think she said 25,000 buttons. So it was like a business suit with thigh-high boots, a briefcase, and something else that were just adorned with like these shellacked orange buttons, and it looked incredible. So it's a tie for me. Like Gigi and Jada, top looks of the week. Jada and Gigi killed it for me. Nicky had a take on Cinderella when she goes to the ball. And so she has this. The thing that really stood out to me was the bow on the oversized bow that is like it starts like right here under her left armpit and just turns into this huge bow that goes like across her body. There's a mouse that's pinned as a brooch to the bow, and it's very Courtney Love. Courtney Love went to some like glamorous event wearing this kind of like beautiful garment, and she had like an actual dead mouse pinned to her chest. So it gave me that. But there were all of these elements that really stood out. There was a little patch that said Nicky doll at the bottom of the skirt. She had like measuring tape, some type of a wand. It was kind of like a high couture French version of Cinderella. And so I really appreciated the look. And as a look queen, I wouldn't expect anything less from Nicky doll. And so we learned that the tops and bottoms are Dahlia, Heidi, Crystal, Nicky, Sherry, and Jackie. And I agreed with Rue for those choices. But I was surprised that Gigi wasn't in the top just because of her performance with her group. But definitely Heidi deserved to be there. I thought that Heidi was actually going to be the winner of the group, and she had such a great moment because Jada voted her as being the weakest in the competition in her group, and she sold it in the Maxi Challenge and was able to prove that no, she is a force to be reckoned with, that she is a competitive queen, and that she's here to win a crown. So I love that Heidi got to have that moment just to prove Jada wrong, and then Jada was safe. And so I love that. And so Heidi does not win the challenge, but Sherry wins it all for the week. Another awkward moment. Sherry is really killing it in this competition. She was top 2 with Widow. And so it's just going to be very awkward with kind of like this whole disqualification. In the bottom 2, we have Dahlia and Nicky. And I was completely shocked by this. Dahlia is the House of Aja. Aja is known for her performance. Aja often like overperforms. And so before the song started, I was thinking to myself, oh, we don't get to see Nicky anymore in this competition. And that's just really sad because I just knew that we would see her, like she had this confidence that you could just feel in the her promo look. You could see it in her Meet the Queens video. Like I knew we were going to like get a lot from her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that she's going home first. The song starts, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling Dahlia at all. My eyes are gravitating towards a Nicky doll. Like, Nicky massacred Dahlia. Dahlia seemed like she was stuck in her head, um, that she wasn't all there. She was physically on stage, but mentally she was somewhere else. And it confused me because Nicky said that she was more of a look queen in Paris, because in Paris, uh, audiences don't tip queens, that and you're more of kind of like giving a very a high couture look, that you're not really performing. It was as if it was a complete opposite um, type of experience, that I can't believe that Nicky outperformed Dahlia. I was shocked. Dahlia didn't give me anything that I liked at all. And she really was kind of like a moat attitude, Dahlia. And so it wasn't the type of song to emote attitude to. And so Nicky wins, and Dahlia storms off stage. It was incredibly awkward, uh, very uncomfortable to watch, and I know that she regrets doing that, um, because Miss Vanjie left first her season, and look at her now. She is one of the most beloved queens. She's in Vegas in the RuPaul's Drag Race Live. She is the person who's seen as the most loved girl in that entire cast. And there are some queens that are really beloved in that cast. She has toured with Iggy Azalea. She appeared in an Iggy Azalea video. She has done so much in a short period of time, that queens from her first season just aren't working the way that she's working. And so I know that she's going to regret that. She's going to still, uh, she's not going to fade into oblivion. She is in the House of Aja. The House of Aja, they tour, travel, perform together. So she will always have that. And she has a twin brother. And so if her twin brother joins the House of Aja, they will blow up doing their own thing. And so I'm sure she'll be fine, but it was really rude. It comes off very bratty, very entitled, to walk off the way that she did. I haven't watched the What You Packing, so I'm sure she apologized, but I know that she really regrets doing that. And so I would love to know your thoughts about what happened on this particular episode, World's Worst. Who gave the best fashion moment to you? Did you think that Dahlia deserved to go home? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I am super excited about the next episode. I will review that much sooner. Sorry for being on vacation, but I'm glad to be home in this time of coronavirus, where there's so much uncertainty in the world. But you can always chill at home and watch my past videos. And so, oh, also, thank you to all of my new subscribers. I really appreciate it. It means so much that you subscribe to my channel out of all of the million people that are on YouTube. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I can't wait for us to grow together. Until next time, have a lovely day. Besos. Mwah.